Hello everyone, this is Ahand. If you're new to this channel, then feel free to hit that like and subscribe button for more music production content like this. Grab your tea, Cardamom edition, and follow along with me. So I remember starting off with this percussion loop over here that sounds like this on its own. I simply dragged it in like this, applied some EQ, took out some of the lows, some of the harsh frequencies around 10K. I also added some width using the utility plugin over here and the width parameter over here. Width. Also removed some of the bass frequencies using this bass mono button, which is really cool. So the sample sounds like this. So for this, we're going to head into beats, preserve transients, one shot mode, and drag this slider down so we get a more snappier percussion sound. So we only want the transients of the sound to be included in this percussion loop. After that, I added another percussion loop on top. By the way, you can find all these loops and samples that I use in this project file in my Daydreamer Organic House sample pack using the link in the description below, so feel free. So this is what the sound originally sounded like. As you can see, I also removed a bunch of the low end frequencies, and I also used the beat warp mode. This time I put it on 16th and drag the slider down. So we have a more snappy percussion loop. Both sound like this. Awesome, so we already have ourselves a stable groove going on. After that, I added some shakers, starting off with the main shakers. They sound like this. This is shaker number 18 from the Daydreamer pack. I simply just dragged and dropped the sample in and played it with the percussion sounds. Sounds pretty cool. I wanted this shaker sample to have more movement, which is why I used LFO tool to add in a half time groove over here. So I set the rate to a half beat and 100% depth. You can hear the difference already instead of this. And if you don't have LFO tool, that's not a problem. You can also use Autopan, which comes with Ableton. What you do is you hit this mode over here. So you don't want to be on Hertz mode. You want to be on the notes mode. Set this rate to halftime, and the phase, you want to make sure the phase is set to 0. After that, you can either hit invert or leave it on normal. That's really up to you, and just increase the amount. So you get the similar pumping effect that you would usually get with LFO tool. With the other percussion loops, it sounds like this. Adds a bit more groove. So we have another shaker loop that's panned to the left that sounds like this. It's a really tiny shaker loop. And for this loop, I also went into the beat warp mode, transients, preserved the transients, one shots, and I dragged it down to 0. So we have a really snappy percussion sample. Together it sounds like this. You can see in the second part of this section, after 8 bars, I added in another shaker loop that originally sounded like this. After processing, it sounds like this. I added this groove to assist the shakers on the right side. So I panned this to the right. As you can see, the other shakers are panned to the left. And I removed a lot of the low frequencies. And for this sample as well, warp mode beats, preserve the transients every 1/16th, put it on one-shot mode, and drag the sample to your liking. This sounds pretty cool to me. So we have our percussion here. And in the original track, you can also hear percussion sound that's on the left. The original sound sounded like this. Just dragged it into Ableton Sampler. What I did is just pitched it up an octave right here. Added some low cut, and I added this shifter plugin to pitch it down a bit and add some stereo width using the wide knob here. The reason I like shifter so much is because you can really shift down drums in a way that makes them sound clean. Because if you would just simply pitch the sound down using the controls panel over here and transpose it here, you would get a cool sound, but it wouldn't really sound clean because Ableton uses its warp mode. And for this, it uses a different algorithm. So feel free to use shifter on your drums more often. And finally, we added a background texture to assist the percussion layers. So it's basically just nature sounds. Added a bit of high cut, boosted some frequencies around the 1 kHz range. Added some grain delay, messed around with the individual parameters, and came up with this sound. It almost sounds like somebody's walking on snow, which is really interesting. You have that similar sound in the original track by Hraach as well. All of the percussions together sound like this. After that, I added the clap. The clap consists of 3 different layers, one being the rim clap. It almost sounds like a block of wood. And then I have a transient clap that sounds like this, which is just really short transient hit at the beginning of the sample. And an organic hand clap, which sounds like somebody's clapping. It just sounds like somebody's clapping with their hands. I hope you know what I mean. So you have these 3 individual clap layers that sound like this together. And to make it sound more human and organic, I pre-shifted the individual samples by a few milliseconds. 7 milliseconds was pretty good. I'm going to keep it at that. So we have our percussions and our claps, and we're going to add a hi-hat on every 8th beat. The hi-hat without any processing sounds like this. On its own, it has a bit too many high frequencies, which is why I removed them using this EQ. And I added a resonant frequency around 2.9 kilohertz. You can also change the frequency using this knob over here, depending on the pitch of your track. This one sounded pretty cool though. So our percussions in total. So we already have a pretty organic and really subtle rhythm established. Now we need a kick, and we need a juicy one. So what I did for this is I created a MIDI track, and into this MIDI track I loaded this instrument called Hraach. Then I loaded a few kick samples from the Daydreamer Organic House Pack. Just some that sounded good to my ear. And then I simply dragged them into the individual pads that you can find down here. And with the percussion loop in the background, I started choosing some kicks. A lot of these kick samples sounded pretty cool with the loop, but I decided to take the one that's short and snappy because Hraach usually likes to use those as well in his tracks. Okay, so it sounds pretty cool with this kick. What I'm going to do from here on is I'm going to add another tom groove that plays continuously with the track. You can hear this in the original track as well. Woo! It already gives the track so much groove. And this is basically just a simple tom sound, just pitched up a bit. I dragged this sound in here, pitch it up an octave, and made sure it's in the right key. I also added some additional tom grooves by choosing a different sample, like here. And if we play these together with the kick itself, it already sounds pretty cool. I also added another tom groove, and I just cut out this certain section over here. That makes it sound like this. That's just fire already. It's just, it already sounds cool. And if you add the percussion back in with the claps and the hi-hat, it already makes you want to just dance and groove to the rhythm. That's fun. As a bonus tip, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to spend enough time on your drums. If you get your drums right, they make up so much of the character of your track, especially for genres like organic house, deep house, and house, or techno in general. It's so important to have that dancey groove rhythm. A lot of people just like to get started with the melodies and construct the drum groove around that, which isn't wrong, but I find that it's so much easier to get melodies to fit to your drums that you already have when it comes to dance music. So do yourself a favor and spend some more time on your drums. Now comes the part that you've all been waiting for, the melodics. What I'm going to do for this is just create a new layer over here. I use Diva to create the synth sound. The reason I use Diva is just because it sounds awesome. No explanation needed. This plugin is just amazing. We have the initial preset loaded here, the one that comes with Diva once you open it, and we're going to tweak the individual parameters. First thing you want to do when you want to recreate this sample is you want to change this filter mode from LAG to envelope 2. So envelope 2 controls the filter amount now. And if we play the sound by itself, it sounds like this. And now we can just tweak the individual parameters until we get the sound right. So let's play that with our drum groove. Remember that envelope 2 is now controlling our filter amount. And then we're just going to mess around with these parameters here. We're going to add a low cut. So this setting sounds best to my ears. Then we're going to add a delay, put it on this mode over here, ping pong, and make sure you only filter in the mid frequencies because this sample is mainly within this frequency range. So we want the delay to also be active in this mid frequency range over here. I tuned down the feedback back to 30% and a bit of that dry wet here. So you can hear the empty spaces between the melody over here are being filled out with the delay, which just sounds amazing. Awesome. And then you might ask yourself, how did he create those pads? How did he get those chords? So there's actually one simple method to get the chords right from a track that you're trying to recreate, and that is by using the original track. I have the original track down here. The information that I can get from the original track is tempo, the key, and the chords or other melodies. I'm going to cut this specific section over here. Then I'm going to create a MIDI track. I'm going to drag this down over here. It's going to ask me, do you want the harmonies, the melody, or the drums to be converted to MIDI? And since we want to find out the chord progression, we're going to check harmony. So after it loads a bit, he's going to give us this melody progression over here. And we're going to play this using the instrument that we have here. So it's going to spit out something really random like this. But using this information, you can start cutting out the unnecessary notes like this and start creating your chords from the original track. So this is actually really, really nice if you want to gain some new inspiration. You just choose a couple of tracks that you like and you convert the melodies or the harmonies to MIDI and you can start tweaking the individual notes to your liking. And that is exactly how I found out the chords for this pattern here. I used a Rhodes layer and a pad layer that sounds like this. The pad on its own sounds like this. It's actually just a preset from Ableton called Mindfulness. And I just really thinned out the sound by using a bandpass filter, which is mainly focused around like the 200 Hertz region. I did some additional cleaning up over here. But this sound in combination with the Rhodes sounds like this. Amazing. It's a simple F minor chord. He follows it up by using an A sharp minor chord, also known as the B flat minor chord. So this would be an A sharp minor chord, these three notes. What Hraach did is he transposed the F note down an octave, or 12 semitones, by using shift arrow down. And additionally, he added the upper note as a root note, so it sounds more full. So this is an F minor chord, and this is an A sharp minor chord, also known as a B flat minor chord. If you're not really sure what chords you want to use in your scale, you can always check the internet. Since I know this track is composed in F minor, I'm going to Google chords in F minor, and then I can find each and every single note that is in the F minor scale. And from these notes, I can create chords. So I can create an F minor chord, a G minor chord, A flat minor, B flat minor, and you can also see which chords are usually used inside the scale. So we've got the drums ready, the chords and the melodics, the sub layers as well. And what we're going to do from here on is link every track. So every individual group is going to be headed into a separate sidechain ducking channel. So what I did for this is I created an audio track. I hit input. I loaded in compressor here. It's a standard compressor that comes with Ableton. Make sure you want to open this panel over here and turn on sidechain. So every element besides the core rhythm, which sounds like this, is being reduced in volume by the sidechain compressor. So the kick is sidechaining the rest of the track. This creates that pumping effect. And you can tweak the individual parameters until you find your favorite pumping sound. I went with these because they sounded the best. As the final step, I added some quick mastering by taking out some of the low end frequencies at about 35 Hertz. Also remove the bass from the sides. You can hit MS mode over here and then just remove the bass frequency from the sides. I added some OTT for a bit of that crunchy sound, you know. Didn't add too much. Really want to make sure you go careful with the OTT. Added a bit of saturation, like around 5 dB, to emphasize some of the harmonic frequencies of the track. And that's basically it. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, you know what to do. Hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps me grow, and it helps me to provide you more tutorials like this. So if you like this project file, you can grab it using the link in the description below. It's for free. If you like the samples from this video, you can also grab the Daydreamer Organic House Pack, so feel free to do so. Stay blessed, have fun producing, and make the most out of your music. Peace. So, you know what to do. Jesus Christ.